Yeah, it says it's streaming live, so let me see if we have. Yeah, we're live.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we can just start in 1 minute, and I will copy this link and I will share that.
So I just want to make sure that we're recording the video. Actually, Facebook records it, right?
Okay. Urenna, perhaps we should start when you're ready. And I think we have about 6 people already connect on Facebook.
Awesome.
Once you're ready, I think we can just start.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you're calling in from. My name is Dr. Urenna Onyewuchi, and I am the founder of A Professional Africa. This is not going to be your typical or traditional presentation, so I hope that you stick with me to the end. I'm going to be talking about the power of volunteering for successful entrepreneurship. This is about Africa in Africa, Africa in the US, and Africa all around the world. I'm going to share a story of how I got into entrepreneurship, and I'm hoping that this will also get you into the same. So stick with me. Thank you. Okay, so I grew up in Nigeria, West Africa, where my passion was cultivated in mathematics. I actually loved to solve calculus problems and differential equations problems in high school, secondary school for fun. I wasn't that big on reading novels. I didn't get into novels until college, and that was because I saw that I needed to expand my mind in the area of creativity and dreaming past what I could see with my eyes. So I had a passion for math, and I also had a passion for improving power in Nigeria and in Africa. As you may know, more than 2/3 of the African continent is without power. So that was my passion. Right after I graduated from high school, my parents sent my older sister and I to the US to pursue great opportunities. My sister now is a pediatrician in Pennsylvania and doing great. But we moved to the US right after 9/11. We moved to the land of opportunity, to the home of the free, because of the break. And I'll get back to this a little bit later. So let me tell you the story. I started at George Mason University and studied electrical engineering. So remember, I have a passion for power. The university at the time didn't have a strong specialization in power. So I ended up specializing in digital signal processing. And I loved Fourier transforms. I loved pretty much all of that. And so that was what I specialized in at George Mason University. After the first year of school and having depleted my funds from my dad, I didn't want to call back home to disturb my parents. And so I tried to figure out what other ways I could fund my education. I was already tutoring in school as a math tutor in private as well as for the university, but that wasn't enough. So I found out about the Office of Financial Aid and I pretty much slept there. It was so interesting because every single time that they, well, I had built great relationships there. And so whenever they got new applications or new companies or new organizations that were willing to fund the education of the students, they would actually send me an email and say, hey, we have something that you might be interested in. So when I started applying, initially I was getting rejected. I would send in my first application for a scholarship, which was a tasking process, and I would get rejected. And, but something was interesting. Every single time that I got rejected, what I did was I would find out or ask why I got rejected. I would improve on whatever that was. And the next application I would turn into another company. I would work on whatever that was. This continued a number of times until one day I got accepted. The United Negro College Fund believed in me and believed in my story. And they gave me a scholarship. And with that, a summer internship at Weyerhaeuser Company. That was my first internship. I was really young. I really appreciated the fact that UNCF got involved and that this company was willing to sponsor a young African-American woman. They sent me to Arkansas, to what I would call the middle of nowhere, a place with very low diversity, but I was determined to succeed. They not only gave me an internship, they got me a rental car for the summer and an apartment to live in. They really invested in me. The industrial plant that I worked at, I enjoyed the older men that worked at the plants, and they loved having me as well. My job was to conduct safety audits around the plants to make sure that if OSHA was to come in, they would not fail a test and get penalized for any reason. I did that and I succeeded and went back to school after the summer was over. But because UNCF and Weyerhaeuser believed in me, the floodgates opened. After I got that scholarship and that internship, the doors remained open. And after that, I did not need any loans. I didn't need any extra money. I had enough money to go through to school. When I graduated with my bachelor's, and again, with the specialization in DSP, digital signal processing, the job offers that I got were very engineering, very boring. And I wasn't sure that I was ready to jump into that lifestyle yet. So I went and did my GRE, and I scored a perfect score on the math, 800 out of 800, and applied to Georgia Tech and got in. And Georgia Tech believed in me and gave me an assistantship that would pay, I would have to teach students in exchange for not paying tuition And so all I would have to pay was housing, but I had some allowance to cover that. So again, Georgia Tech believed in diversity. They believed in the work that I was going to do. And that made a huge difference in my life and the course of my life, basically. So from Georgia Tech, I got another internship, a summer internship. What you will find out in my story is that I always find a way to work, a way to learn something new. I could have stayed in academia the entire time, but I wanted to continue to expand my mind. And so I worked at Western GCO in Houston one summer as a grad student. Western GCO is a Schlumberger company. And there I was to do pattern recognition, because for my master's, I was specializing in digital image processing and in optics. Now at Western GCO, they had a group of gurus who, whenever an exploration site was found, an oil and gas exploration site was found, these people, the company would give images of the sites, underground to see where you can see the layers, and they would give the pictures to the experts and say, which ones are good sites, which ones can we go into and get some oil and gas out of, and then the experts would look and make a decision. So obviously, as engineers, you understand why that's not the best solution to the problem and why you would want to automate that, including reducing accuracy. The company would want to have a little bit more control, because what if somebody fell sick, or for instance, with the pandemic that we have now and something unexpected happens, you, for certain types of things, you don't want to rely on a human being. And so I was brought in to develop an algorithm that quantified the process and helped with decision-making. And I succeeded in that. I did that for the summer, did my presentation. And after that, I went back to Georgia Tech to continue teaching and tutoring and taking classes and working on my PhD. Now, the next summer came around, and Western GCO offered me an internship again, paid one, nice enough, good enough money for graduate students who were still in school. But then another opportunity came up as well. Georgia Tech asked if I would be willing to travel to China and teach Chinese students and Georgia Tech students engineering for very minimal pay, very little pay. Being young at the time, to me, the solution or the response was clear. Of course, I would go back to Western GCO. I had friends there, I had family there, I'd worked there before, it was familiar. It was good enough money. For China, I didn't know anyone. I had never been to that part of the world. It was just all very new and all very different. And I had planned to say no until I talked to my mom and one of my trusted friends in Houston at the time. And they said, "Are you crazy? This opportunity would be the best thing that ever happened to you." They said, "Money will come later, but opportunities you can't pass by." So I listened to them and I went to China. I went to China scared, but I went. It was a very challenging time for me, even stepping out of my house, stepping out of my apartment. As I took walks down the streets, getting to the university from my apartment, I would be stared at and all of that. And I was like, I don't know anyone here. But then over time, I was taking the same routes to school. People knew me, or at least I would wave or smile or whatever I could do to communicate, and they would reciprocate. And it ended up being a really, really good experience. And I came back to Georgia Tech, and that experience opened up doors. So again, I would also like to say it was great of Western GCO to believe in a diverse individual and to put money into funds to help develop young people or students. So after China, when I went back to Georgia Tech, the next summer, I didn't do China. I did GE. I worked at GE actually a couple of summers, but I'll talk about the one that that was impactful with respect to the conversation we're having today. So I worked at GE, and GE had, at the time, I'm not sure how they're doing now, but at the time they had a very strong diversity program, so strong that they invested not in the summer, so they paid for they gave interns wages and put them in a place to live where they could network with other interns. But they also paid for the interns to travel from wherever their location was to the diversity programs that they were having, wherever in the country it was. And I had gone to one of those things, and my life kind of turned a little bit at that point. I was listening to a talk that an executive member of the GE board was giving, an African American lady who was inspiring those of us, that class of diversity program. And when she was done with her talk, during the Q&A, I went up to the mic and I asked her, I said, well, did you plan on this path? Did you know, like, how did you get to this point? And she said to me, well, the biggest thing is not to chase money, which many people do. She said, you have to chase your passion, and your passion will somehow bring you money and bring you growth. And when I went back to my seat, I remembered my passion. I remembered that I got into electrical engineering because of power in Africa and in Nigeria. So when I went back to Georgia Tech, I went back with a decision. I switched from digital image processing and optics back to power. Well, I shouldn't say back to power, but to power. Now, of course, a lot of friends thought that was unwise. Power is probably the most traditional aspect of electrical engineering. There's new technologies and so on going on with just about every other sector of electrical engineering, but power has been old and aging for quite a while. But I believed in what I was doing. So I ended up specializing in asset management of power systems. So what that was developing stochastic optimization algorithms for power utilities to make informed decisions. During the time I was getting my PhD, there were hurricanes all over the country, over the US, and the power availability during those events was poor, and customers got really angry. They felt that perhaps the utilities weren't doing enough on their end, perhaps they weren't maintaining their assets well enough, and that's why it took so long to recover power. Also, in one of the states, a distribution pole had fallen after a hurricane hit and had killed a little girl. And so it was a big thing. The government, the utilities, everyone brought out money for research to find out, are the utilities doing what they're supposed to do to maintain their assets, yes or no? And so I got research money to work on this. And I developed algorithms to look at the inspection histories, the physical properties, and so on of the assets, use NOAA data to analyze probabilities of environmental stress on utility assets in different parts of the country. And by intersecting the two layers of algorithms, determining what regions of the power utilities should be inspected more often, how much they should be spending on inspection versus preventive replacements, and so on, to make this, good decisions. So based on my algorithms, I was able to save utilities a factor of about 6 times the cost, their annual costs on maintenance, and yet improve their reliability, their existing reliability. So that was a big deal, and I loved it very much. Now, also while I was at Georgia Tech, because I love community development, because all these companies had given so much to me, I wanted to make sure that I was giving back to the community somehow. So while I was in Atlanta and studying at Georgia Tech, I was teaching or tutoring at in what we call the inner cities in the Atlanta area. So if you've heard of Bankhead, you know what I mean when I say that in terms of perceived and actual safety issues in those areas. So it would be one of those ones where when they would say, when you drive into the neighborhood, make sure there's nothing visible, make sure your doors are locked, make sure all of these things. I would be teaching little kids who, because of problems they had at home, would talk back to you when you're trying to teach them and help them. They were just, you know, always trying to fight back. But I believed in it because I knew it wasn't their fault that they were that way. And just as much as I love learning and I knew what it had done for me, I knew that I had to do the same for them. And so I invested my time in educating at that level. Towards the end of my PhD, Corning ran into my resume because of a really wonderful lady that I'd met at Georgia Tech. It was interesting because every time I walked past her on the hallway, she looked at me and would walk away. And I always thought, maybe she doesn't like me. Until one day she said hello and we became very good friends. But when Corning, which is one of many companies that came to Georgia Tech, visited the school, and they were talking about Asia. And I think actually they had come with a Nigerian employee to recruit, or at least just to try to form a relationship with Georgia Tech. And during that conversation, mentioning China, and the lady heard him say he was Nigerian, she said, you have to talk to Urenna. And she offered him my resume. And at that point they said, we are going to grab you and adopt you. And they did. And so Corning was really kind and really sweet to fund my last year in the university, getting my PhD. They brought me in to do power quality work. Some of the plants, just like with many manufacturing plants, would lose power for maybe 3 seconds or a few seconds, and yet production would be lost for several minutes, and they would lose millions of dollars as a result of that. And they wanted to understand, well, why is this happening? So they brought me in to begin to look at the data. So I did everything from deploying metering infrastructure to software, to deploying software or commissioning software and analyzing the data, grabbing what was necessary from the data to trend power quality indices across the divisions and across the plants, so that I could report to executives, either myself or through my supervisor, to find out if there were any plants that were doing a lot poorer than others, if there were plants that were losing more money than others, to determine if we should put UPSs and flywheels in plants, certain plants, or if we shouldn't do that. Because in some places we found that depending on the size of a plant or the demand in the plant, UPSs could actually make the power quality worse in the plant. So there was a lot of decision analysis that went into deciding what plants would get protected and which ones would not. But working at, while I was working at Corning, I got tapped by IEEE, one of the largest technical associations in the world, to have help them have a bigger and better footprint on the continent of Africa. So you see, getting back to my passion after that GE conference really came back around, because everyone knew me to always talk about Africa, to have different Africa events on campus and in the company. And they knew that I loved Africa and advocated for Africa, and that I was very good at executing projects and initiatives. So I, of course, said yes to IEEE Power and Energy Society to help with the Power Africa conference. And that opened up a lot of doors. I had done Africa development work on a really small scale, doing events. I held leadership positions in African Students Associations at George Mason and all of that. But what I was gonna do for IEEE was going to be big, because I needed us to make a difference where electrification was concerned, and to give hope really to the African people, our African people, and to the youth. So what were the successes? I was working full-time at Corning, actually spending over 60 hours a week doing simulations and analysis and decision-making. And then I was spending a lot of time, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, on this conference to make sure that it was a success. So when you look at the time constraints here and what I was trying to deliver, or what I was delivering on the volunteer side and at Corning, my full-time paid work, you will see that this was not something I could have done in my own power. There's absolutely no way I would have been able to succeed both things, giving my best to both. And so I call this the volunteer work that I did, and the work that I'm doing now, my business, I call it a divine push. There's a bigger power than myself, because no human being can do, when we think about some of the things we do, we just know that we can't do it by ourselves. These were some of the successes of the conference. Poverty eradication. I created a partnership with IEEE Smart Village through one of the kindest people you ever meet, Dr. Robin Podmore. And I told him that for the conference to succeed, a lot of, we want people who don't have a lot of hope to have hope and to come to the conference from wherever they were coming from. And I said, most of the people that we want have the plans and have the ideas, have great potential, but they don't know how to go about starting a business or succeeding, and they won't have the money to come to the conference. And Robin said, I'll work on it, and he did. So I worked with Smart Village to facilitate surveys, recruiting, interviewing of, first of all, leaders that would pretty much bring up the initiative and make it successful, and also recruit the entrepreneurs that we're looking for. And in the last 4 years, I believe that the IEEE Smart Village, in partnership with the conference, have trained and provided seed funding for over 100 entrepreneurs in Africa in 4 years. I'll jump down here. Before I came in, the IEEE there was a Power Africa conference that happened twice in South Africa in a span of about 10 to 15 years. When I came in within the first year, I established the conference as an annual conference in 4 African countries, in 4 African countries in 4 years. And this would not have been possible without a team of people, because to succeed in any endeavor and to succeed definitely in a business, you have to have the right people. And I was quite blessed to have and to find the right people. And I'll talk a little bit more about this soon. Knowledge sharing. The conference brought in people from all over the world who were interested in improving power in Africa. Of biggest note, I would say, is I shouldn't have put it last, the gender equality side of things. I established a Women in Power session at the conference where we had a panelist or four or five panelists of women, different ethnic groups around the world, different ages, different areas of power and energy. So we had the business side, someone who was from business side, someone academic side, and so on. Just share the experiences, challenges, successes. But we also brought in secondary school girls in each of the countries that we went to, so that we exposed over about 200, between then and this year, we would have exposed over 200 young girls to STEM, which is a big deal, especially in Africa and here all over the world, but definitely in Africa. It was a big deal because at the end of each session, some of the girls would run to me and say, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I could be an engineer as a female and wear high heels. Or I didn't know that I could be an engineer as a female and get married or have a normal life. So to them, it was like a light bulb went up in their heads. And finally, they thought, oh, you know what? If you could do it, I can do it too. And that was the absolute best experience for me where the conferences were concerned. So was it hard work? Yes, but the reward was so much bigger and so much better. But there were gaps. So these were the good side of things, but there were gaps. After a few years of doing this, I had some burnout. I've always believed in the power of youth and human development in Africa. I obviously, as you can tell, I have a deep passion for Africa, but not just me. Many people that I've met of African descent and even of non-African descent have a passion for Africa. And the first conference that we went to, same thing. Those that I worked with in the countries had a deep passion and they're still great friends, but there were gaps. So for instance, the execution skills were negligible. I'll give you an example, just one of many. So let's say I put someone in charge of marketing, the marketing committee. So lead a team of people, young or old, and work on marketing. I want you to contact maybe 2 or 3 radio stations to tell them about what we're doing. 2 weeks later, I would call them for a progress report. So there's already a problem. I shouldn't have to call you for a progress report if we already agreed that you are going to give progress reports at certain times. And so I would contact and say, okay, what's the progress report? And the answer or response I would get would be, I didn't start because I didn't know how to start. And so the challenge was, okay, if you didn't know how to start, maybe you should have reached out or told me earlier and I would have coached you, given you more tips. But it didn't happen 1 time or 2 times or 3 times, not even 10 times. So after a while, I began to see this obviously is a pattern, and this is a huge gap that we have to address. So I have to give a shout out at this point to my core team during that first year, because we had to build everything from scratch, every single thing. I provided strategic direction for everything, and I was involved in every part of it. But our treasurer, Professor Butler Puri, who is a dean and provost at Texas A&M University, the secretary at the time, Ms. Longe, a webmaster that was very dedicated. I would send him all sorts of messages every hour of the day and night, and somehow he made it happen. Mr. Prince Ibe, who actually grew up in Nigeria and then moved to the US eventually, but very, very reliable and trustworthy. And of course, the incredible IEEE PS administrative team that sits here in the US in New Jersey. So I led everything remotely. So calling from the US to Zambia, to Ghana, to Africa to make decisions and to work on everything. So for those who are scared that their projects and initiatives can't work because of the pandemic, you can make it happen. It's going to take some sacrifice and some strategy, but it's very, very possible. Because I had not just a personal reputation to keep, but also creating one for Africa itself, I did not want a conference that was just, oh, it's an African conference. You know, some people said, why are you killing yourself for this conference? You could just make it a basic African conference. And I said, no, I don't want people to associate the word African for blasé or for whatever. I want them to think and think quality. And so the first conference that we had was intimate. We had maybe about 170 people who came, and remember, who came from all over the world. I think over 20 or 30 countries were represented in that conference, came from all over. It was such a beautiful experience. I would be on when I was flying from South Africa to Zambia, there was a flight that I took, and I saw these young people, and then I saw someone with an IEEE shirt, and I said, "Are you coming to the conference?" And they said yes, and I introduced myself, and they were so excited. "Oh my gosh, you're the one who's hosting the conference," and all of that. And it was just the best experience ever. So seeing their passion, seeing their joy, seeing the excitement to develop Africa was everything. It was everything. It really was. I handled every part I touched on every single aspect of pretty much a business. So everything from contract negotiation to marketing strategy to vendor selection, reviewing contracts, everything, developing pricing strategies to exceed profit goals, recruiting and interviewing. So doing cold contacts with government officials and companies. And so trying to build trust. Since the brand, we didn't have an established brand yet. So I was trying to establish that. So I had to use my own reputation or my own history to tell them what I had, what university I went to, the things that I was accomplishing, and what IEEE itself has accomplished over time. And so just trying to bring in, to build trust and bring in new partnerships. So basically, I happily broke my back running a business for an NGO with no pay for over 4 years because of my passion to see Africa succeed. But we hit a ceiling. Just as obviously as an engineer and analyzing performance, I saw that my team was, I shouldn't say slow team development, more like I was starting to see my core team the core team that I was developing, we were experiencing burnout because a lot of the heavy lifting was done by us in the diaspora, and more than those in on the continent itself for the earlier conferences. And I needed the team to take for the organization to fund learning, certificates and leadership and all the rest for the team so that we could grow at an even faster pace. But then there were organizational changes. So that hope kind of, it got killed. The conference, everyone knew was going well. It was year after year. And with the new, with organizational changes and new goals and new interests, the path we were on kind of got changed completely. And so the development budget was not approved. It just seemed like there was a ceiling at that point. And that was when I made the decision that perhaps it was time to step back a little bit just to see how everything plays out. But I should mention that as I was, before I brought this up to leadership, I had talked to those at the conference and I said, I think we need a year off for everyone to cool down and for everyone to kind of learn and grow. And I remember this professor, I think his name is Dr. Innocent. He came and he gave me a hug and he said, Urenna, you've done a lot already. You've given us something that's ours, a conference that's from Africa to Africa. Let's take it from here. Go ahead and rest. And that was amazing when you know that you've, in a sense, created some kind of sustainability or succession, that you've passed on your dreams or your vision or your passion and someone caught it and they've run with it. The conference is still going on. We have a Kenya conference coming up soon. And so it was just an exciting time. But given that we didn't have a development budget and I just felt like it was needed and our team deserved it, I thought it was time to get into development of our people myself. And that's when a Professional Africa happened. So I'd already built strong relationships. So one of the differentiators that I felt like I was bringing to the table was the ability to help people collaborate across the world. So not just Africans in the diaspora, but people who love Africa in general. And so that's one of the big things with a professional Africa. With my vision being connected directly to my passion to create an Africa that the world respects. So you see the mission statement, providing strategic tools and development programming to solve Africa's problems through global collaborations. Now I'm going to talk about Africa itself. So bear with me, I'm going somewhere with this, and it's connected back to a professional Africa. It's believed that around 1619, some of the ablest and strongest African men and women were shipped from us to the US. And they went in bonds. They had their bravery, they had their strength, and they were forced to work. So let's just say they were volunteering, but against their will, And remember, for this to have happened, people traveled across oceans because they had heard of the strength of the African people. And that's why they came. So we always have to remember that we have a strength and a bravery that would cause people to hear about us and to come for us. And everything in life, there's a reason to it. Every adversity happens for a reason. So if you're not sharing this video yet with your friends, I hope now that you are. Now, with what was going on, sometime in the 18th century or so, someone had the feeling that this probably wasn't right. And it was time to emancipate the people and let them go. But we were still in some ways locked up in the mind, in a multiple ways. There was still a lockup of the African people. But through a professional Africa, I would like to make a strong statement. I believe that now, this very season that we are in is a time of liberation. This is the home of the free because of the brave. And I know that the African people are part of the brave. We helped to build this great nation. So now I am saying that our liberation is now. Now is the time when we need to all get together and we all need to become either entrepreneurs, if that's your calling, or to support those who are in the field of business. We have very strong intellects. I have seen it. I've traveled to multiple countries, 15 countries for Corning, and many more for vacation in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, in America. We have intellect, but now it's time for us to build. Be encouraged. Timing is everything. We're in an interesting season here in the US. You all know what's been going on the last week. But I'm telling you, timing is everything. There's much anger, but I want to encourage us to know that now is the time that we get together and we build our country's wealth. Our country, when I say our country, I don't mean just on the continent. I mean here in the US, I mean in the diaspora, I mean wherever we are. This is the time to rise up. I started a professional Africa because of adversity. Now, let's start something new, many new things through the adversity that we're in. And I'm going to be in a couple of minutes concluding. But now is when we defeat our minds. What prevents us from getting into business? We are afraid. We are petty. We are proud. So what do I mean by afraid? We think we can't do it. But I'm here to say, yes, you can. I have done it. I'm doing it. And you definitely can. Let's not get easily provoked. We get distracted by fighting one another. We get distracted by competing with one another. And it's time to stop that, to get together and collaborate with one vision in mind. We must get over our pride. We have to ask for help. We have to ask for feedback, and we have to agree to be developed. I'm asking that we start to develop ourselves, perhaps by being apprentices, to again work and for free for a little amount of time to develop ourselves. But the difference is that now we have a choice, that we choose to do it, knowing through a professional Africa that we will you get placed in a job that pays you. That's what the dream and the vision of a professional Africa is. UNCF believed in me. Their slogan is, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," and it is. I have a very simple but challenging wealth creation model for us African Americans here and Africans in Africa and around the world. I've succeeded before through an awesome team, and we have we're succeeding presently, and we'll succeed some more in the future. The model is simple, that we train first, which is teaching, that we develop through apprenticeship, and then that we place people in jobs. We've created strong partnerships already across the board of these three things, but we need more so that we can grow and succeed exponentially. So we need to raise learning funding. I have young people who've connected with me saying, I would love to take the courses and I need to take the courses, but I don't have enough money. I would love to give, but I can't do it for 1,000 people or for 10,000 people, but you can. Together, we can pull resources together and do this for Africa. We have courses on the website already, project management, Six Sigma, different areas. I've chosen a company that does courses, online courses for top universities here. These are short courses. So while there are courses that you can take for 10 hours and for 20 hours, most of the courses on the site right now, you can finish within 3 to 5 hours quickly so that you can get to the development stage quickly as well. So I'm calling on all builders. I'm calling on donors. I'm calling on churches. I'm calling on nonprofit organizations. I'm calling on investors. I'm calling on everyone that we come together to build the capacity. If you have volunteer opportunities and you're able to coach interns, if you're willing to be patient and to criticize constructively, and you're willing to have an apprentice, then please, we want you on the platform. Go online and register and select that you want to develop someone. Select that you want to sponsor someone to be to get a certificate. If you have job opportunities, let's eradicate poverty and frustration. Let us know, again, through our registration page, that you have job opportunities. We're still setting a lot of things up. We're automating and innovating constantly every single day with Mind developers. And we're trying to make sure that you can simply go on the website and put these opportunities up, and we will go end to end from those who have the needs to the meeting of the needs. That's the plan, and we will succeed. I'm a doer, not just a talker. I've done it in the past. Georgia Tech selected me as the PhD commencement speaker. I talked about what PhD means: perseverance, hard work, and delivery. And that's exactly what I bring to the table with a professional Africa. Prior success, we've done this before. I've talked about it. Development programming for power and energy that I, the team, past teams and the current teams, even though I'm more playing an advisory role, we've done this. It's succeeded already on a power scale, but we can take it to a bigger level, and that's where Professional Africa comes in. Quality or nothing. Like I said, I don't want anything to get a tag of African, which means it doesn't have to be good quality. No, everything that comes through a Professional Africa is quality. The courses are handpicked. The sector experts are handpicked. We're not just selecting any person or any course on this website. So you can trust that. We've already done a lot. Everything on this website, when you go to visit, everything has been completed in less than 6 months. So like I said before, this is a divine push, and that's why I know it will succeed. But I need your help. I need you to join me. So from now, what are we doing next? Next month in July, we have a series of conferences, talks with experts around the world, African and non-African. We're addressing infrastructure, we're addressing energy, we're addressing human capital, women, empowering women, healthcare, all these areas, because I've met people, amazing people and experts in all these areas. Mental health, because we have a lot to overcome in our minds after all these years and centuries and decades of everything that's happened here. And also in Africa. The disjoint between those of us on the continent and the rest of the world, it's affected us. But when we come together now, we are going to be able to make a huge, huge change. And that's why we have the theme of this conference. If you're interested in sponsoring the conference, because we're making it free, but it costs money, obviously, to plan a good conference. If you're willing to sponsor, please go online and register on our website and select that you want to sponsor the conference, and we'll send you information with our sponsorship package. So, in conclusion, Hour of Professional Africa is Wakanda Unleashed. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You're muted, Engineer Aliyu. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you very much for the wonderful talk. About 50 minutes of discussion. You touched a lot on yourself and the African continent. We have some audience that have just joined us on the Facebook, and I'm still checking to see if there are any questions being asked. For now, I didn't see any, but if I will also want you to tell us a little bit about your discounts rates that you have for the people across the region in Africa and the Middle East. And
yes,
Europe.
Great. Thank you so much for mentioning.
Tell us.
Thank you so much.
Quickly.
Okay. Thank you so much for mentioning that, Engineer Liu. We've been able to work out a discount with our current supplier, and we're actually going to have suppliers of more courses in the areas of banking, care, hospitality, caretaker courses on the website soon. But right now we have a discount for everyone watching from now till the first week of August. And the discount code on the site is going to be IEEE R8E. So that's I and three E's, the letter R, number 8, and E for entrepreneurship. Because we really believe in the initiative that Engineer Liu and the team are pursuing, and we are hoping and believing that we will have more engineers around the world. So in EMEA and the rest of the world, definitely here in the US, getting into entrepreneurship. So you will be able to get a 12% discount on all the courses except for the security awareness course with that discount code, IEEE R8E. So remember, our courses are short courses, very well vetted. The company that we partner with right now has had about 2 million learners around the world in the last 20 years. The company was founded by MIT and Harvard educators. So obviously they know what they're doing, and universities and colleges have been employing their services to help improve the workforce of the companies here in the US and other parts of the world. We have Professional Africa has sole distributorship in Africa. But one of the great things about what we're doing is that everyone benefits. So anyone who brings people in to get educated, because we're all about collaboration and we reward that. If you bring people in, you get rewarded, you get credits to your account that as you add more people, you can take a course for free when you've reached a certain amount of money on your wallet. And for people who bring huge volumes of people into the program, we have a solution for you as well, where you are able to cash out your credits. So not just apply it within the platform, but you can cash it out. So we're working on that. Definitely that's possible in Nigeria because we're using the African global, but African headquartered company Paystack as our payment gateway. So right now we offer that in Nigeria, but we know that as we add other countries' gateways, we will be able to offer the cash out option to others.
Thank you very much for that. We're very excited to, take on this opportunity to be able to learn more. And I would like to say thank you very much for joining us on this call today. And for anyone that have questions, the link is still shared on our Facebook page. And if you have those questions, we'll be happy to forward them to you so that you'll be able to provide your guidance and feedback. Once again, we appreciate you joining us on Talkspreneur, one of the initiatives for IEEE Region 8 Young Professional Entrepreneurship Initiative, alongside with the professional educational activities members. We're very excited, and we hope we are going to see in some other talks that we'll be organizing in time soon. So thank you very much. I didn't see any questions on the Facebook page, so we are good to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much.